Would you guys like to know how to start a successful woodworking business that sells furniture for $30,000 and more per item? Well, today we have Cameron, the owner of Blacktail Studio, who's going to show you everything about his thriving woodworking business. Let's get into it. Cameron, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
It's our pleasure to share your story and mostly everything that you do in this woodworking industry. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got involved or started your woodworking business.
Sure. Started, I believe, in 2016. I was a EMS pilot, and EMS pilots have a great schedule. We had 7 days on, then we had 7 days off.
Nice.
And so I needed something to do with my time, and we just moved into a house that had an oversized garage. So I've always liked building stuff. I've never been like a woodworker, but okay. I just decided I needed to fill my time with something, and I found out that tools were really expensive, so then I decided to try to sell some things to maybe pay for some new tools.
And wood happened to be what you ended up eventually doing,
yeah,
besides anything else?
I'd picked the name Blacktail Studio to leave it kind of open, and maybe I want to do metal, maybe I want to do that.
Okay.
And once I learned how specialized woodworking is, I was like, I can't do this for metal, I can't do this for other things, so I really focused on the woodworking.
What is your monthly average revenue? Has it been steady over the last years?
I've really scaled back my woodworking revenue just because I've been focusing more on social media and that.
Content creation?
Yeah, woodworking, it varies. It might be 30,000, 40,000 one month, and next is, nothing the next month while I'm building those.
Gotcha.
I'd say on average, probably 15,000 a month.
Okay. Cameron, let's talk about scaling and growing revenue for a woodworking business. What would you do today to do that?
I think a lot of people need to not be afraid to potentially charge what they're worth. Early on, once I started charging $5,000 for a table, I was like, wow, now I've made it. Nobody will ever pay more than $5,000. And I started getting orders and I couldn't keep up. And I go, maybe I'll try 8. And then at 8, went to 10, went to 15, to,
wow.
Now I'm turning down orders several times a week for $20,000 tables. And I would have never got there if I would have been too afraid to raise my prices to something that I was not thinking someone would pay.
Cameron, we got to talk to you about your YouTube channel. More than 1.3 million subscribers, incredible number. How did that come about? How long did it take? And most importantly, how did that change the way you do business, and what has that done for your business? I know, lots of questions.
I know. No, the YouTube's been awesome. It changed everything. It went from me being kind of a small woodworking company, making furniture, trying to profit from that, to really kind of being my main focus now, because there's more potential with YouTube than there is. I'm only one guy, I can only make so many tables in a year, but there's no limit how many views I can get. What kind of surprised me is how many customers I get from it, because I'm giving everything away. And I didn't know if that would hurt me, giving away all my, quote, secrets or tricks that I've learned.
Right.
But what I found is I've got countless dentists and doctors that they said they got on YouTube to build their own table. They're like, oh, I'm handy, I want to do this. And they go, that was way too much work. I just want you to build me a table. So it's been great for business. It's been great for things, like ad revenue.
Yeah.
It's just changed the focus of which direction I take things and try to make more, better content than cranking out a ton of furniture.
That's awesome. You guys, I want to take the second. Please support our channel. Take a nanosecond. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like and the bell so that you don't miss any videos. For someone watching right now who's starting into woodworking, do you think it's a good idea to start a YouTube channel? Yes, no, why? How has it benefited you as well?
YouTube specifically is maybe not for everybody. I think people should do some sort of social media, and as much social media as they have the bandwidth for. Mm-hmm. YouTube has been amazing for me, and it is a kind of a bigger time commitment because you need to do a little bit of production, whereas TikTok or Instagram, you can take a picture and keep working. So YouTube's good, but it might not be for everybody.
Do you do all the editing yourself for YouTube?
I do everything myself.
Wow, okay, because I know that's time consuming and you have to have the knowledge and skill.
Yeah.
I personally don't want to touch it.
Yeah, no, I film it, edit it, light it, build it, everything.
Okay. Well, you've got an incredible story and quality of product as well. And I want to tell you guys, keep watching later on the video because Cameron's going to share something incredible that will help you build tremendous trust with your clients and have an awesome reputation. Tell us a little bit about your startup cost when it became an actual business. How much did you have to invest, tools, etc., and how is that broken down?
My story might be a little different than a traditional business because I was flying full time, so I was just doing this in my spare time, and I just bought one tool at a time. You can do a lot with limited number of tools, and now if you watch my videos, I have like every tool, and it's a ridiculous amount of tools that I have.
Didn't happen overnight though.
No,
okay.
And it was I made my first big sale, and I bought my first big purchase, like, $2,000 planer. And then, a couple more sales, I could buy some more tools. So I basically, a couple $100 initial startup cost and took it from there.
With what you know now, what would you tell our audience? Hey, get this tool because it's a must. That tool is a must, and you can pretty much create a table. What would it be?
Yeah, I'd say, a really good circular saw, or actually a circular saw, it doesn't have to be a really good one. A really good sander, that's something that makes a big difference. And then just, piece everything together, buy things, Craigslist. I have blogs on how to buy tools for pretty inexpensive and which tools I recommend buying used and which tools I recommend buying new.
Might be an easy question for you, but what's your monthly overhead? What's the biggest expense for you in the woodworking industry?
Well, as you know, you pulled up to my house, so this is a detached shop.
You don't pay any lease or rent?
No, my wife will probably start getting me on that here pretty soon. But right now, it was part of us buying this house. It was a little more expensive than we would have bought normally. And I asked my wife, I'm like, well, what would a shop this size lease for? And she's like, this much a month. I'm like, that's our whole mortgage. I'm like, why don't we spend a little more on the house and have this and save myself the overhead?
Do you go through tools on a monthly basis? You spend a few $100 just consistently because they break or anything? Or
not, tools tend to last, but a lot of consumables, sandpapers and finishes, but that's just hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars.
Gotcha. So pretty minimal.
It really is.
Pretty minimal. That's cool. Let's talk about skills and techniques that you have acquired over time to become this good. Somebody watching that doesn't have the knowledge and skills that you have, what resources can they go to learn? What's the best way?
Sure. So when I started out, nobody was really making these types of tables, these epoxy tables. I shouldn't say nobody. Nobody was showing people how to make these epoxy tables. Right. So everything I learned was through my own trial and error, and I made a lot of mistakes. And this epoxy is expensive, the wood's expensive. I actually just released a virtual workshop. I used to host in-person workshops, but I don't know if you remember around 2020, something happened that made it hard to get 20 people into a small room together. Right. So now I made a virtual one. I hired a film crew. This is the only one I didn't film and edit myself because I wanted to do a really good professional job. And so it's like 3.5 hours long, but it's got everything, to go from never seen epoxy before to being able to make like a, $10,000 table for your clients.
And you've designed and created that workshop?
Yeah, I created that workshop. It's available online. It's on my website. So it's something I'm really proud of. And I tell people it won't necessarily make you a pro, but you'll skip the first 2 years of that learning curve.
2 years is a lot. What does that add up to, like 700 days? So we'll make sure we leave a link to that in the description below. Let's talk about profit margins, because you can make a small coffee table to, what is this, a 12-foot in the back here?
9 foot.
9 foot. So is that a higher profit margin sale versus a smaller coffee table? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I've talked about this in some of my videos before, because there was a desk that I made that I'd had a slab. It was a really pretty slab, but I got it on sale, and it was kind of a funky, weird slab, and I bought it for $200.
Okay.
Ended up selling a desk for $7,000, and I paid about $800 for a custom base for it, which is great margins. And there's been other ones, that I've been, spent 50% on the wood plus legs and things like that. So, it can vary from 90% profit to, 40%. And generally, the smaller ones I can make almost for free out of my offcuts of these big ones. But the big ones, I generally try to, be, 60, 70%.
That'd be a good sweet spot.
Yeah.
I want to follow up on people that are watching right now who have a job and they're thinking, when do I leave that job to go full-time here? Can you just overall explain that world of switching?
I think it's different for everybody. I think that it's kind of a fallacy to think, oh, you got to go all in on something and you got to commit to it. And you got to quit your job and do this, get your commercial space. For me, I just put my toe in the water and I wanted to see, am I good at this? Is there a demand for it?
That's smart.
I think a lot of people realize like, hey, I might not like this. It seems great, but maybe I hate dealing with customers. Maybe I'm not great with furniture. Maybe I don't like running the books or doing everything that comes with running a business. So for me, it was just start small and see if it's something that's, worked out well for me.
You mentioned the course that you've designed earlier in the video. How much revenue do you hope to achieve with that course? And more importantly, what kind of benefit is it going to provide to the customers of that course?
Sure. So far, the first 4 weeks, I haven't done any advertising yet, but we've sold between 300 and 400 of them, and they're $99. So
pretty fair.
Yeah, 30-some thousand. So I've paid for the production of it, and then some. I still need to figure out the marketing because I'm good at social media, but I haven't done Facebook ads and Google AdSense or the AdWords. I'm not even sure what it's called.
Which would be important for the course, you think?
I think there's a lot of people searching this that aren't on my social media that would benefit from that. So that's going to be kind of the next step, is figuring out how to market that.
Okay, guys, on that note, we have an incredible podcast with a Google ad expert. So check out our podcast, upflip.com/podcast, to learn how to be an expert with Google Ads. Let's quickly touch on must-have equipment for somebody getting started. How much should they budget? What are the pieces of equipment they should buy, etc.?
Yeah, it depends, because a lot of people have tools already. You know, they might be a homeowner that has, you know, basic tools. Some people might not. I'd say, you know, at least $1,000 is probably a good start. And like my sander I have, it's like $550, which is a ridiculous amount when you have never used one like this, but it gives me such a better finish that I couldn't live without this tool. And so I really recommend, you know, buy those really expensive tools that are going to touch your project last, whereas a circular saw is going to be the first thing that, you know, touches your table. That sander's the last thing, so spend the money there.
I want to ask about all this wood here. I've always been curious, like, where do you find this wood? Do you turn down a lot of offers of wood? Tell us how you source it and any tips and tricks on finding the best stuff.
Sure. I'm in Portland, Oregon, or outside of Portland, and I'm one of the best places in the world to buy at least big walnut slabs. 20 minutes from here, I have the world's largest supplier of walnut slabs. So I go there 95% of the time. I've bought stuff on Craigslist before. You know, you can do that, but it's kind of hit and miss. I've had good experiences and bad experiences.
In terms of choosing the right type of wood, what can you share on that? Like, what do you look for? What's a good piece versus junk?
Is it dry? And I think it's all the new woodworkers, because you get on Craigslist and they go, yeah, it's ready to go. And you find out eventually that it's probably not dried entirely or correctly, which then it means, you know, it might be years before you can use it.
How do you market right now, and how do new customers find you for the most part?
Yeah, everything social media.
That's it.
Yeah, I think when I first started, I spent $20 on Instagram ads or something like that, and nothing comes from it. I don't see why anybody would spend money on marketing when social media is the best advertising. It's the most authentic. They get to see the entire process of you creating potentially what could be their piece of furniture. So yeah, all the social media, nothing else.
Obviously, you have a website. So if I'm watching TikTok, what sources actually do you use, or platforms? You mentioned
YouTube is a large focus. Okay. Instagram probably second. I should do more on TikTok, but it's kind of get stretched thin.
What do you do different or unique that helps people find you? Your website, or?
Yeah, I do have a pretty good website. I'm not a tech person, but I built it myself. It's just a template type of website. I went and found a woodworker that I thought had a nice website and go, I want to copy that. And so if people like mine, by all means, just copy the general layout, because I just copied it from someone.
There you go. We call it R&D, or rip off and duplicate.
Yeah. That's what I did. Put up a bunch of photos, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't realize you're not supposed to upload the highest res photos to your website because it bogs it down, and Google will shelve it. My wife found out like a year in that I had they were like 1,000 times larger than they should have been. Jeez. And she's like, oh, yeah, this is not good. So don't worry about the optimization of it. Spend the time, just get something up. Get, some more people can land, and then you'll figure the rest out later.
Quickly touch on your website, like who designed it, who hosts it, who manages it, what the cost of operating is, and how important is it to your business, if at all?
Sure, I do everything, and I do all my photography, so I'm like, I got to learn how to host a website, and it's just Squarespace. I just found a template I liked.
Pretty straightforward?
Yeah, it was actually really easy.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for your business?
I think
10 being crucial.
I think like a 2, or sorry, no, like an 8.
Okay, I was gonna say 2.
Yeah, no, like you don't have to have it first thing. I feel like that's like a 10, where someone has to have it before they do anything. But it is something that, maybe after that first Etsy sale, it's like, all right, now I'm gonna get my website to give yourself a little bit of credibility.
Yeah, drive people to your website.
Show you that like you're an actual business.
Right. Out of all the orders that you get, I know you say you turn down a lot, which is a good problem to have. You're picky and you want to be unique. How many of the orders that you receive, or the estimates that you give out, make it to completion?
If someone's emailing me, that's the easiest thing in the world. If you're at a home show and there's 1,000 booths, that's hard. You got to try to grab someone's attention. But there's no reason for you not to close someone if they've seen your prices. If they've reached out, they want you, they know how much it costs. Sometimes the timeline gets in the way if it's too long, but for the most part, even that doesn't bother it. So if I'd say if I want to do an order and I send out a quote, like we're going to do this, 90%.
90%? You get it closed?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any reason for that besides what you already mentioned? Like, is it the way you have conversations? Is it your website that really proves your product? I mean, I just want to see if there's anything else we can extract from you to help our viewers close their deals as well.
I'm very honest with them. I think if you tell someone like one big truth, I had a client, he wanted a kitchen island, and he says, hey, what do you think about doing a wood kitchen island? And I go, I don't know, it's probably not a very good idea. And he's like, huh? And I'm like,
not the answer he expected.
I go, but we don't choose wood because it's the most practical. We choose wood because it's what we want. So do you want it? And he's like, yeah. And he bought a $15,000 kitchen island from me.
That's awesome.
So if I would have said, yeah, sir, absolutely, yes, we'll do it for you.
Yeah,
no problem. It's like, oh God, this guy is a little needy. So just being real, being honest, like you're having a conversation with your buddy, and people respond to that.
Why don't we show our audience a little bit about your projects, maybe this huge slab here.
Sure.
You mentioned it briefly. Where are you at in the process so far at this point?
Sure. So this one, we're in the home stretch now. It's been, the epoxy's poured, that's what you see here. I've done my first round of touch-ups, which is these shiny spots here.
Filling it in there?
Yeah, so I just have some more touch-ups and then a lot of sanding and then the finish. So I should be able to finish this in next week or two.
Can you make a full-time living doing woodworking? And what other sources of revenue can you have doing that as well?
I get this question a lot.
Okay.
The answer is some people can. I can. I don't want to say that, quit your job today and go start woodworking tomorrow and you're going to get rich. You might not be good at it. You might be way better than, someone like me. It's different for every person. I have really leveraged social media, things like Instagram where you can post tools that you have along with an affiliate link. Even early on, I was, getting an extra $1,000 a month. And, that can be a lot of money when you're just starting out.
For sure. Why do you think some creative businesses like this fail at times? What would you say with your experience?
It'd be so hard for me to accurately say. I'm sure it's different for everybody. I've always been afraid of getting too big. I could have easily taken on a dozen employees and been cranking out tables. Could I do that for the next 15 years? I don't know. And that would, I think some people do that, but no risk, no reward. So, that's worth it to some people. But for me, I wanted to keep it small, know it's sustainable for a long time.
How do you decide what something is worth? I mean, how do you price your product?
It's the old cliche of, it's worth what someone will pay for it.
Okay.
And be careful if you get on Etsy, because if you can get on Etsy right now, and I guarantee you can find one of my tables that somebody from Serbia is saying that they can make for $1,200. Like, they'll take my photos off my website.
Oh, wow.
All the time. So you can't just compare apples to apples because you don't know what you're going to get with that. So you can't say, oh, the market says $1,200, that's what I should charge. Like I had mentioned earlier, it's a lot of the, raising your prices, and if people keep paying it, maybe keep going and just see what the market dictates.
So there's no trick to it. You just kind of, I guess, dance to the market and see what it demands.
I do think there's a little something to not going too cheap, if you're in this higher end custom furniture, because people don't want the cheapest thing, and they might think that means lower quality, even if you make great furniture for that lower price point. So I do think you got to be leery of going too cheap, but also realizing if you don't have a huge catalog and a large presence online, people might not want to spend $20,000 when they haven't seen anything you built.
This is gorgeous. Curious where you got it, what you intend to do with this.
Sure. This is old growth redwood. This is
beautiful.
It is beautiful. And before people start firebombing the comments, they did not cut down an old growth redwood tree for this.
Did not. Disclaimer, right?
Yeah. Believe it or not, this redwood, and you can't even see it as well as you're going to be able to see it, but all this swirling grain is what makes it so pretty. But the loggers didn't want this. This made bad 2x4s because they want straight grain. So what they did is they lopped off these gnarly sections and left them. So this log had sat for like 100 years.
Wow.
And now this company has come down in California and they're salvaging these and turning them into slabs that we can use for furniture.
What did you pay for it?
Nothing.
Wow.
And so this company reached out and said, hey, we want to get with you on a YouTube video. Like, what do you want? And I'm like anything? And so
that's so cool.
I get a lot of walnut, and they have walnut, but I was like, I don't need walnut. I've done a lot of that. So they showed me this, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all in. So this is about $4,500 slab.
Whoa.
But this is gonna, once it's finished, gonna hang up on the wall and just kind of be like a cool backdrop.
Just for your own.
Just for me.
Where would be a good place to start to sell your first product to?
I tell everybody actually Etsy.
Does that really work?
I stay away from like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, but Etsy does a really good job of getting. I actually got in front of a designer that ordered my first $5,000 table from Etsy.
So that's a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Besides social media that you mentioned over and over. And
I mean, you should still do everything, but you got to put them for sale somewhere, and you can sell them on Instagram. But I think an Etsy shop's a totally legit place to start.
Gotcha. By the way, let's circle back to what we mentioned earlier in the video. You guys, we mentioned an incredible hack that you've implemented and that you do. So why don't you share that with our audience?
It's no big secret really, but I think that if you can just show your mistakes, if you show a big failure, social media, something like that, and say like, oh, this didn't go right, maybe something like that table that I messed up, sharing that story with people, that really resonates with people and makes them think, wow, maybe I can trust them with my project or my order because look what he did when something went wrong.
Is that not the case with most?
I don't think. I think most people are too afraid. They feel like, especially starting out, that you lose credibility and you need to be an expert, but people respect that you're human and make mistakes, but will also know how to fix them.
It's a simple thing, right? But it's like, it's a game changer.
I know it shouldn't be a hack, but
right.
but I suppose it is now if enough people aren't doing it.
Right, in our industry, okay. What systems and software do you use to track orders and really anything else in your woodworking business? Is there anything?
Few enough orders these days that it's not super hard. I do have a simple app that's just like a list, of like this client and it's due by this date. So I can glance, a year ahead or 8 months out and be like, who's next? And God, when did I tell them I'd have this done by?
Is it a specific app for woodworking or
no,
what is it?
I think it's like due exclamation point maybe. It's like just in the app store. I don't even know.
Okay. Just something that works for you at this point.
Yeah. And then I have QuickBooks and all that. But when we bought this house, my wife got into my books, who, again, she's a good business person, and I'm not a traditional business person. And she goes, oh my God, these are a disaster. So she hired me a bookkeeper. So I do QuickBooks and all that, but bookkeeper keeps it all straight.
Is there ever a reason that someone should turn down an order?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean?
If a client starts out difficult, they're not going to get easier through the process, especially, maybe a $50,000 one. And dollars aren't related to it. Sometimes the cheapest customers are the ones that are the most frustrating. A friend of mine just had this. He told me how he was having just the worst time with this client. Long story short, 4 months later, he gets the job done, and the guy says it's not good enough. And this guy is a way better woodworker than me. He's incredible. Wow. And sues him for his deposit back. He won't pay him. So now my friend has to pay like legal fees, and it's in California, and it's all this stuff. And he knew from the start, because I knew this first conversation he had with this client, just stay away from him. But he was lured by that money.
We noticed that you have this Makerspace Database on your website.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that and what benefit does it bring?
That could potentially be another business down the road, but I use this big commercial shop because I can't have these huge industrial machines to go flatten a table. And so I'm really fortunate because we have this amazing one for $75 for 30 minutes. I can go use all their machines. In my videos, people always ask me, they're like, where do I find one like that in my town? And finally I was like, maybe there should be one website with all these spaces, these maker spaces of tools for rent. And it's no longer just on my website. It's now its own website. It's called makerbook.io.
Okay, check it out, you guys.
Yeah, makerbook.io. And let's say you have a nice shop and you're a hobbyist, but you want to generate some extra income, or you're someone that has zero tools. So like we talked about, do you need $1,000 to start up? Maybe you don't have any money, but you can go rent time in someone's shop. You don't have any overhead. You don't have any warehouse space or garage.
It's like renting an office suite basically for a professional person. You go and
by the hour. You can go in and use these really, really expensive tools for a small amount of money. Some places are $20 an hour, to use these tools.
Cool. There's no profits from it yet. You're just still building, right? It's the beginning stages.
Right now, this is kind of giving back to everybody that needs it.
That's awesome.
If it makes money someday, great. But for now, it's
not the priority.
No, it's just let's see if people want this, and if they want it, then everything else will come after that.
All right, let's fly through some brief 3 questions, Blitz. Thank you guys for submitting questions. Cameron, here's the first one from Justin. What were some of your downfalls, setbacks, and how did you get over that challenge?
Logistically, it's hard flipping tables and moving them, but every table's different. Sometimes I have to enlist help, but just figuring a way out to logistically move these big tables.
Okay. Justin also asked, what steps did you take to grow your business when it wasn't where you wanted it to be?
My business got to where I wasn't expecting it to be faster than I thought, so it kind of outgrew me.
Okay. And last but not least, from Adam Orovitz, thank you for your question. Why did you leave being an EMS helicopter pilot, and was it worth it?
First, absolutely was worth it. Second is something had to give. I was not spending enough time being a pilot, studying, things like that. It wasn't going to be safe, so I had to pick one or the other.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for your questions. Where are most of your customers from? Just Pacific Northwest, global, and what are the logistics for shipping large items? Like, what's the furthest you've shipped?
I always tell people don't limit yourself to local. You know, they talk about should I go to my local home show, and it's fine as something, but vast majority of mine are throughout the U.S. and it's mostly lower 48, continental U.S.
Okay.
That's the furthest I've shipped. I have 3 tables going to Italy in like the next 2 months that I got. That's my next project's up.
That's pretty cool.
So that's going to be something.
So shipping wise, tell us what process you're going to go through to make sure that item gets there in one piece instead of 100.
I use a freight broker for my domestic shipping, which is a really good way to save money on shipping, actually.
Tell us more about that. Who are they?
Yeah.
And what does that look
it's
like?
called freightquote.com. It's not an ad or anything, but I shipped my first item through them, went really well. They contract with Old Dominion. They contract through everybody, but you pick who you want. The next time I said, I liked Old Dominion, I'll just call them directly. And they gave me a quote for $1,000 to ship this item. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go back to Freight Quote because that seemed high. My cost to ship with Old Dominion through Freight Quote was $400.
What?
Because they get the bulk rate.
That's not cool.
They act like, this broker that gets like mass discounts, to the little guy.
Yeah.
So saved me a ton of money.
That's awesome. It's a good tip for you guys. Let's talk about going from hobby to an actual business. How did that happen for you?
I did it, one piece at a time, and I didn't really have a choice in the way I saw it it just became a business. It wasn't like I went and filed my LLC paperwork and I just talked to a lawyer and I got my insurance. I just started selling stuff and people kept buying it, and I was like, my wife is actually really good at business. She runs her family's company. It's a good sized company. So she helped me through the way, along the way of like, hey, what do I do here? And other than that, it was just a little bit at a time, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
What was your first sale?
My first sale was a barnwood coffee table on Etsy for $300. And I was stoked.
You're stoked.
Yeah.
Celebrated, popped that champagne bottle.
No, it sold quick. I was like 5-6 days, and I'm like, look at this. Like, I'm going to be rich.
That's when your hobby turned into a business, right?
I guess so. And it's come a little way since then.
That's awesome. Cam, talk to us about your order process. If I wanted to order custom furniture, give me the A through Z, timeline, estimate, everything.
Sure. On my website, I have a form submission, and that kind of saves me a lot of phone calls and things initially, so I can maybe direct them to someone else if it's not something that I'm ready to take on. And anymore, I turn down a lot more orders than I accept.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's great. It's good for the woodworking side of things, but I want to make an amazing piece of furniture that's also an amazing video, and I want to make kind of more exceptional stuff, maybe even higher end than I'm at now. So we just have a conversation through email or on the phone and just decide if it's a good fit.
Awesome. We'd love to hear from you guys on what you think Cam should build. Comment below. Give us some unique ideas, and I'm sure you'll be reading through some of those comments and responding back.
Let's do it.
Awesome. How long does it take for you to make a table, and how many products do you go through a month, I guess?
It's a couple questions of whether, from inception, from having that first conversation to delivering a table, versus how long I physically need to spend working on it. Once I get a slab home, usually about 6 weeks, but I give the clients about a year timeline.
Whoa, how come so long if it takes you 6 weeks to get it done?
I got other clients.
Okay. But so you set the expectation.
Yeah.
From today's order date.
And that's another piece of advice I can give people is just under promise, over deliver, and that really resonates with people. As you tell them, hey, it's going to be 8 months to a year, and then 4 months later, they're like, oh yeah, let's go. People that order this, they kind of get it. Stuff takes a while. People that are good are in demand. So honestly, don't tell someone 3 weeks.
Wow.
If it really is 3 weeks, tell them at least 6 weeks to 12 weeks.
Well, this has been incredible. We love wrapping up our interviews by asking you a question on what is your favorite business book?
Who's got time to read, man? I gotta run a business.
Well, that's true, but it's important.
Yeah.
Anything come to mind?
I actually really like Tony Robbins, but audiobooks probably.
Right. Any title come to mind?
What was it? I bet you know it. It's the money, come on, help me out here. One of the cameramen in the back, he's got a tip of his tongue. Yeah.
Well, Cam, this has been incredible. I trust our audience have enjoyed listening to you, hearing your tips, hacks, and your story.
Hope so.
We appreciate it greatly.
Anytime.
Likewise. I trust you guys enjoyed this incredible episode with Cameron, the owner of Blacktail Studio. What an incredible guy, knows what he's doing. I trust you guys will execute on everything he shared with you. We appreciate your support. We love you a ton. Take a second to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you don't miss any of the UpFlip content as we do this for you. Thank you for watching.